amidst a radioactive environment, in the eternal dark of the underground, at unattainable altitudes. Kazakhstan's vast lands attract researchers and explorers from around the world, and our filming crew are no exception. Hello to everyone, my dear friends. My name is Daniel Glumov, and today we will be talking about the nature, a magnet mesmerizing us with its wonders, especially if it is located in the very center of a city. Let's talk about zoos. The Shymkent Zoo is a 30-hectare live museum under open sky, only 10 hectares smaller than its fellow in San Diego, one of the 10 largest zoos on the planet. If it had been maintained in its original state, today it would be among the top world zoos. It was established on April 29, 1980. At that time, its territory made up 54 hectares. As a rule, people go to zoos to observe animals or sometimes even to demonstrate themselves to animals. It is an entertainment closely linked to learning, a reasonable risk without any serious life threat. Where else it is possible to look into tiger's eyes or touch a 6-meter-tall giraffe. Modern zoos exist not only for the sake of guest entertainment. The key tasks are daily, detailed and laborious observation and research of animal behavior, genetics and immunity models in captivity. It allows a scientific basis for preserving rare and endangered species from complete disappearance. The Shymkent Zoo is home to 2,549 animals of 239 different species, 45 of which are listed in the Red Book. This path in the Shymkent Zoo is called the Lover's Avenue, which is similar to the so-called kissing rose in a cinema, the best place for romantic rendezvous and liaisons. The path leads to a new open-air cage. And this is the place where a most interesting scientific research project is taking place as we speak. In the Shymkent Zoo, animals which can only walk or crawl are contained in open-roof cages. These which can fly and attack are kept in classical or closed open-air cages. There are 43 of them here. It looks ordinary and even somewhat neglected, but it is really a special one. Are you sure there are some iguanas there? Yes, of course. Last year we released 6 animals. Where from did you bring them? For the most part, they represent the local fauna of our region. Sometimes people bring them themselves, thinking they will get big money. They do not understand that iguanas are Red Book species and it is prohibited to withdraw them from the nature. They just bring them here and leave at the gate. So iguanas can be found in southern Kazakhstan region? Of course. How typical these animals are for the local fauna? Very much so. It is quite an ordinary thing for our area. Although they are listed in the Red Book, their extermination by locals has become a serious problem. Iguanas, or dragons, or monitor lizards, as they are also called, are perceived as killers, devils and cattle stealers. The superstitious local farmers really don't like them. In response to this aggression, we observe the iguana's sociopathy. I hope we'll get lucky and get a glimpse of a dragon. Ready or not, here I come, you can't hide. Ladies and gentlemen, in the course of the last hour, it seems I really got the meaning of the phrase looking for a needle in a haystack. In this case, it is finding a iguana in deep grass. We have been looking for these secretive and mysterious animals for an hour, but even a slightest trace is nowhere to be seen, unfortunately. Did you set up the photo traps already? Did they catch anything? The photo traps showed that the iguanas were still surveying the area. They come to the feeding site at a certain time. They are behaving stereotypically and come there in the first half of the day. Now it is more or less cool, so usually they are sunbathing till lunch and after lunch go to inspect the territory. In the summer, when it starts to get really hot, they survey their territory in mornings and evenings and rest in the afternoon.
В утренние и вечерние часы, а днем они где-то отдыхают.
Где живут?
Where do they live? What their dwellings look like?
Ну, в основном это норы.
Generally, they live in holes. Sometimes they occupy holes built by rodents. So they do not set up their own shelter? No, they can dig their holes themselves. In fact, they are very good diggers. They can dig holes up to 5 meters long and 1.2 to 1.3 meters deep.
А вот, кстати, нора.
Look at this one. Is it a goanna hole?
Давайте посмотрим.
Let's have a look.
Пусть она оттуда высунется.
It would be great if it was there.
Хотелось бы увидеть, конечно. Но вот, судя по
Yes, it would be great, but judging by traces, it is not a dragon. When goannas walk, they always leave a tail trace on the ground. They do not leave their tail while walking, so it just drags in the sand. These traces have fingers. It looks like feet with small soft cushions. I cannot say 100%, but it looks like a gopher family occupies this very hole.
какой-то суслик здесь живет.
It looks like today our search for the largest lizard of Central Asia has failed. By the way, some background info on its physical appearance. Large goannas can be up to 1.5 meters long and weigh up to 3 to 3.5 kilograms. The majority of adult monitor lizards is usually smaller. On the top side of their neck, they have 2 to 3 long dark-colored strips, which usually connect, forming the typical horseshoe pattern. Keep this info in mind, perhaps you will be lucky enough to encounter these introverts in the wild nature.
Эти ребята вообще светиться не очень-то любят.
These guys don't really like extra attention and go low profile. You cannot just come and find them at any time. This one is a totally different matter. All the zoo staff would be searching for it if it wasn't where it was supposed to be. The zoo staff warn us that they didn't remove the poisonous glands of these cobras. Meanwhile, allegedly just 1 gram of their poison is enough to kill 140 dogs. At this time, the snakes are really stressed out and dangerous. Their home terrarium is undergoing reconstruction, but as in the wild, their behavior is to some extent predictable.
Если она встает в стойку,
If it takes up a stance, the height of the lifted part of the body basically tells you the distance at which it can spring. Can you actually take cobra into your hands? Technically, yes. Cobras in principle can be taken in hand. It does not attack at once. In the beginning, it makes precautionary attacks, although I would not recommend it. As one of the most suitable snake species for exposition, reticulated pythons have been practically always living in the Shymkent Zoo. Yet their large size and high individualism do cause some problems. They are poorly tamed and can demonstrate aggression towards a person who has been taking care of them for many years. Necessary conditions: a spacious terrarium with a superficial big pool filled with warm water and abundance of thick branches for climbing. Since these animals usually live in tropical climates, temperature and humidity have to be high. However, now no snakes are exhibited, as their terrarium is under reconstruction. Together with reptiles, they have found temporary shelter on the premises of one of the zoo's utility rooms. Abundance of food and a carefree life of zoo inhabitants is not so simple and in fact causes latent problems and psychological discomfort on the part of animals due to constant attention of the public. Long presence of humans in the open-air cage with steppe eagles is really disturbing them. Of course, keeping eagles in unnatural conditions causes huge inconvenience. In the wild environment, they choose their couple and habitat themselves, not to mention the constant flow of zoo visitors. In addition, they are forced to live in proximity to other avian species. All this causes a lot of stress for steppe eagles. Therefore, reproduction of such bird species in captivity is an extremely rare case. Considering all these nuances, we are doing our best to create conditions in which eagles would feel themselves comfortable. This is our main task. The zoo conditions are significantly different from animals and birds' natural habitat. The natural conditions are much more diverse and variable. Wild animals decide on their own how to avoid certain unpleasant situations because their behavioral capacities have been forming in the course of evolution under the influence of challenges and tasks they faced in wild nature conditions. In nature, the radius of habitat of an eagle couple is at least 6 to 8 kilometers. That is, between eagle nests, there has to be a large enough free area, allowing them to hunt without any interference from other avian species. Recently, we are registering a decrease in the quantity of steppe eagles, which consequently means that their habitats are expanding. Besides, steppe and golden eagles, as well as the Karakusa eagles, are listed in the CIS Red Book. The better the zoo operates, the less the behavior of its inhabitants will differ from their natural way of life. And this is the key principle of ethology, an applied zoological discipline investigating the genetically conditioned animal behavior. In certain cases, mere observation is not enough to interpret behavioral patterns. In this open-air cage, 2 species of eagles are kept at the moment. They are practically the same. It isn't difficult to distinguish these species. The most difficult task is to help them to find a couple, because it is practically impossible to identify a male or a female, unless of course you happen to observe them during mating. However, sometimes females imitate this process. Genetic examination helps us to identify their sex. To do so, we send their feather or blood samples to a special laboratory in Europe. A success is when zoo specialists manage to not only maintain but also increase the number of zoo inhabitants. When open-air cages get overpopulated, individual animals or birds are released into the wild. How easy is it for zoo animals to adapt to wild conditions? Before setting free, we prepare them because the wild environment is very demanding. It forces them to switch on their survival instincts. In the winter, for example, we begin to feed them with live rabbits or mice. It helps them to recall their natural hunting habits as they would do it in the wild. By the way, just recently the Shymkent Zoo has released into the wild a whole herd of Przewalski's horses. The Altinimel National Nature Park, the largest in the country, has become their second home. It should facilitate the restoration of this endangered species population. While in the zoo, the animals always were kept outside, so the new climatic conditions should not cause too much trouble for them. There are several ways of exhibiting animals. Under the systemic model, animals or birds of the same fauna group are kept close to each other. For example, birds are exhibited together with other birds, and cat species together with their close relatives. The second model is called landscape. Under this model, one exhibition area is shared by animals living in similar habitats, like deserts or steppes, but on different continents. The zoogeographical model allows exhibiting the fauna of the same continent.
Вся Африка как на ладони. Это часть экспозиции.
The whole Africa on the palm of your hand. And it is only one part of the Shymkent Zoo exposition. As you can see, the area of 7 hectares is organized in such a way so that with time it could host giraffes, hippos, zebras and other African animals. By the way, no predators are planned to live here. The area has 2 viewing towers for visitors. It seems this is the first step to creating the so-called open zoo. This is really great, as these who are meant to live free must have at least some freedom. This is it for today, and stay tuned.